Oh shit. Here we go again.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, week 9 of the college football playoff. My rankings, who's in, who's out, why. So again, I'm not going off and trying to predict things, not off from how it stands currently now. So not like the selection show, but I certainly want to get out in front of who I think has a chance to make the playoff and where everybody else stands. So we're going to get started. As you can see, our who's in the hunt thing narrowed down quite a bit. We lost quite a few teams, but still in the hunt is 10 teams. And we'll see the top 10 today. Ohio State Buckeyes, Florida State Seminoles, Oregon Ducks, Washington Huskies, Georgia Bulldogs, Texas Longhorns, Oklahoma Horns, Alabama Crimson Tide, Roll Tide, Penn State Nittany Lions, Ole Miss Running Rebels, and the James Madison Dukes. So our in the hunt teams breakdown. The SEC is leading now with the 10 remaining that I have in the fold. The SEC has 3. The Big 10 has 2. The Big 12 has 1 lone representative that probably won't make the playoff. The Pac-12 has 2 viable teams. The ACC has 1 that I do think will make the playoff. And then our other is James Madison, who's still undefeated and still, in my opinion, has an outside, albeit small, chance. So we start with number 10. Those very James Madison Dukes. My opinion, they're just another Cinderella story that is going to come up short. They play in the Sun Belt. They're not making the playoffs, especially with some of the teams that we have going into week 9 here, undefeated, or week 10, excuse me, going undefeated so far, and some of the impressive resumes that we have on the table. They just don't have the wins. Their 1-point win over UVA, University of Virginia, would be their signature win, and that's just not enough to get you into the playoff. Ole Miss Running Rebels at number 9. So I think this is where they're going to end up. I think after this week, we'll probably see them drop out of the hypothetical hunt. They did lose to a weak Alabama team, probably one of the weakest Alabama teams we've seen. But Alabama, as always, is getting stronger and back in the conversation. I still think they lose to Georgia this Saturday. I would like them to upset Georgia, but I think they ultimately lose because Kirby's going to have the guys ready to play. And it will probably be another Bulldogs victory. Their signature win is against LSU. LSU started the season very highly ranked, lost a couple, and are not an impressive team anymore. Number 8. Texas is an enigma at this point. They beat Alabama, and that would be their signature win on the season. Alabama's only loss, but then they do something like lose to Oklahoma and don't look good doing it. And they played a lot of close games. Their game this weekend was very close. I think it was 3 points. Way too close for comfort. Not going to make any friends. Not going to get into that top 10 or top 4, excuse me, to make that playoff. Number 7, the Fighting Josh Chandlers. I mean, Penn State and Nittany Lions. They lost to Ohio State. They don't really have a signature win. There's nobody that's like, wow, they really beat them. And frankly, they probably won't get it. Again, in another one where I wish I was not right, but I think they lose to Michigan this Saturday because Michigan cheats. And I think that they don't pull that one out. So I'd love to be wrong on that one. Josh, trust me, I'd love to be wrong on this one. But I think we both know they'd probably lose to the Wolverines. Like I said, they're starting to slide right back in there. Alabama Roll Tide. Still contend that it's either Bama or Georgia out of the SEC. I don't think the loss matters. I don't think Georgia's loss eventually will matter. And the Tide have some good wins. Probably the best strength of schedule, and as we've seen before, that would probably be the argument to get them in. LSU, Tennessee, and Ole Miss are their top 25 wins on schedule. And as much as we all counted out Alabama, you can never completely count out Alabama. If there's a slight opening, if they can somehow beat Georgia in the SEC title game, maybe they, I still think Georgia probably drops one at the end of the year here. Maybe we see Roll Tide. The SEC is going to represent the college football playoff no matter what happens. So, number 5, Oregon Ducks. This one's based on what's left, because I think Alabama's the better team over Oregon, but it's based on what's left, what the records are going to look like, and where I think everything is going to shake out. Washington lost at the Ducks losing to Washington, coupled with the weak Pac-12, really hurts Oregon. And we'll start to see next year they move over to the Big Ten. There's going to be a lot more big matchups, a lot better strength of schedule, and maybe the Ducks are for real and they can sneak in a time or two. But when you play in a weak conference, you have to be exceptional. If you're anything less, then you're on the outside looking in. So, they had at the time a very signature win against Utah, but that is faded, much like the Utes. Number 4, I still have Florida State. The Seminoles, if you look at their scores and look at how how well they're beating people, it's been pretty ridiculous all year. But they've been rolling people. They have wins at LSU and Duke. I still think they run the table, and they win the ACC title game, probably against, I haven't looked at the other side of the schedule, but probably against someone like Clemson, one of the traditionals. And when you have a 13-0 conference champion out of the ACC, you really can't tell them no. So I think they're still in. Not much changed. It's pretty much identical to last week. I mean, obviously Jordan Travis's and Cam Coleman's stats went up slightly because there's another game under their belt. As far as passing yards, rushing yards, and points for, they're in this pretty much the same spot they were last week. Points again, pretty much the same spot they're in last week. So then, instead of an X factor this week, I decided to break down position grades. So coaching, I give them B-. Still fairly unproven. We'll see when we get into these tighter situations and these situations that really matter, what's going to happen with that. Their offense, I think, is a B+, borderline A-. They have to be able to sustain a running game in big games, because you can't just throw the ball 50 times and win big football games. You got to be able to sustain the run. Their defense has been suspect. It's been concerning. But luckily, they've been able to outscore everybody, so that's kind of a plus. Special teams, you'll find it's consistent throughout all these. I'm not a big fan of special teams unless they're exceptional. So they'll be all in that B range. Number 3, the Washington Huskies. That game Saturday against USC was impressive. SC just kept putting up points, and they kept answering. They have a high-powered offense that can score anywhere, and Michael Penix Jr. looks like the real deal, and he's going to be tough to stop. They have 2 top 25 teams, one on the road, one at home, and the Utes and the Beavers, and then a rivalry game against the Washington State Cougars. So they have if I had to guess, they'd have probably the biggest concern with dropping a game going forward in the schedule, but I think that offense is just way too potent. Unless somebody can figure it out, and I don't know that either of these three teams remaining on their schedule will. I think they'll get exposed once they get to the playoff, but I think until we get to there, this is probably the best you got. Penix keeps putting up crazy numbers. He's up over 3,200 passing yards. He'll get over 4,000 before the end of the season. And they have Adunze and a whole host of wide receivers. Adunze will be over 1,000. They might have a second receiver that goes over 1,000 yards. Could be fun to watch. They're number one in all of college football, 383.1 pass yards per game. Points for is fourth in the NCAA. Again, they cannot run the football. They've not done very well running the football. And I think that's what separates a good team from a great team is when you get into the playoff and it's that last drive and you really have to put one in the books and run the ball, 6, 8, 10 times in a row and salt away a game. We'll see if that can happen. We saw their defense got exposed. That's why they're tied for 46th in the NCAA for points against. But they were able to keep ahead of it. So when you have a good offensive team, that's what they have to do, and they did. Coaching B-. I'm not a huge fan of the Washington coaching staff. I think they could utilize some of their positions better. They have a big offensive line and can't run the football. That's always a concern. Offense as a total, you have to give it to Michael Penix Jr. I think they're the best offense in college football, hands down. Again, the running game concerns me, but they can air it out and they could put up points when they're needed. The defense, as we talked about, is trash. It will be the reason that they exit the college football playoff and do not win a natty. But I have them as a C. And again, no surprise, B- for the special teams. Number 2, Georgia Bulldogs. I had Georgia losing to Mizzou this Saturday, and they damn near proved me right. It was a lot closer than I thought everybody anticipated or would have hoped for. So, and they have probably the toughest schedule coming up. Much like really Florida State and Washington. They have some really good teams, especially like Washington has 2 ranked teams. They have 2 ranked teams. And then they have an in-state rival that can sometimes be a thorn. So I still think they drop either that Ole Miss or that Tennessee game. One of those 3, I think that they lose. With that being said, I think they're still in if they win the SEC championship game against Alabama. I think they'll drop one. Both teams at the top of the SEC will have 1 loss, and whoever wins the pseudo play-in game, also known as the SEC championship, will get into the college football playoff. They're good at everything, not great at anything. They are at the tops for points for and passing yards. Their defense points against is pretty good. Again, something with running this year. They cannot run the football. 47th in rushing yards. With that being said, coaching, I think they have the best coaching staff maybe in the league at this current time. Give them an A+, B+ for their offense because they can score. They can put up points. Again, they can't run the football, but I think they're second probably in offense to Washington. And then defense A-. I think they have a great defense. A lot of people that go hit and make plays. And special teams. I think they're the one exception. They have a good kicker, pretty good punt game, pretty good return game. And I think they know how to make special teams make a difference. Number 1, the Ohio State University. Ohio State still the clearest path forward. Champions bleed scarlet and gray. True. No one can stop Marvin Harrison Jr. Just again this weekend, just insane. If they need a catch, they know who to go to, and there's no chance he's going to be stopped. 3, Michigan cheats. All these things could not be disproven. Like, these are all incredibly true statements. Again, I think it all comes down to how many signs did Michigan steal, and can they pull it out on that 11:25 at University of Michigan for the game. And again, not terribly spectacular at anything. Their rushing is the worst out of the group of 4. But with Trevian Henderson, they can pick up those yards. They can extend the drives. They can solve games. They don't need to rely on it, but they can. McCord is a wild card. I don't know how he's gonna end up. Points for and passing yards are kind of pedestrian, but you got to love that points against second in the entire nation. Points against, and look at the bottom there. We got Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 18. Coaching, I'm still not sold on good old can't even remember his name. I'm still not sold on the coaching staff that replaced Urban. But I think they have a great offense despite the holes because of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's an impressive prospect. As far as the defense, I think that they're probably top 5 in the country. I'm pretty sure they probably are top 5 in the country. That's a non-committal answer. And I think they can change games. I think they have playmakers. And they play a different style of football. So it'll be fun to watch once they get there. Special teams is going to be a B+. I think they have some speed on the back end. I like their field goal kicker. I think they can make a difference in a close game. So here, nothing's changed. As of now, I still think this is how we go into the college football playoff. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Washington. And number 4, Florida State. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for the Week 9 roundup going into the Week 10 slate of games. I'll have another one next week, and we'll ride this all the way through the conference championships into playoff matchups for the national championship. So thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Take care, y'all.